you've had a successful crowdfunding campaign. Party! You can't go dark now. The inevitability of success does not end with the completion of a crowdfunding campaign. It ends with the completion and delivery of the film and all of the incentives that you promised. It's really important that once you've finished your crowdfunding campaign, you're collecting all the materials that you need to demonstrate to your audience that all the things that you promised are really happening.
Do a little bit of work ahead of time and plan. Have a photographer on set taking stills and behind-the-scenes photos. You will need them if you want an EPK, if you want to work with a distributor, but you'll also need them for your own outreach. Don't be the person who writes to your crew afterwards and says, "Send me your iPhone photos, I need BTS." Be more professional than that. And also, if you have people come to set as an incentive fulfillment, take pictures of that. You will want to share that all over the world.
Take videos, ask them how much fun it was, see what it's like for them to interact or even be in a scene.
Those are all the materials that you need to collect so that you can demonstrate that you're doing what you promised. And now we want to move into actually taking those materials and using them to continue to grow your audience.
Once you've finished your incredibly successful crowdfunding campaign, you can't just go silent.
If you've done all of this work, which we talked about from the very beginning, you now have this muscle. You know how to communicate with your audience. You know how to identify them. You know all of the materials that you need to be communicating with them.
So you can take all these incredible materials that you've gathered during and after your campaign and use them to continue growing that audience as you've learned how to do. That means continuing your visual shareable progress updates using the update function in your crowdfunding page. It means continuing to prove that your incentive fulfillment has been successful and fulfilled.
A big piece of this is staying in constant communication with your audience, whether that's on social media or sending out updates, because you want them for this project and you want them for the next one and the next one and the next one.
It also means you have to be really responsible with how you update them. Because keep in mind, your updates go out into their email inboxes. And every time they open an email from you, that is when they decide if they're going to open the next email from you. So we're not talking about sending stuff out willy-nilly, but really respecting the updates, the social media, as continued extensions of your storytelling toolkit. So that when somebody opens an update from you about the project, they feel glad that they did. They learned something, they were excited, they were delighted, they were inspired.
Which means don't be the filmmaker who has to send out the update that starts with, "Hey, sorry, been a while." You want it to be that people know what's going on with your project, but don't feel bombarded by the contact. It is a fine balance to figure out.
So you've completed your film, you're still contacting your audience all the time to let them know how well it's going, and now you start the really exciting part of your career, which is the festival run. Festivals can be one of the most essential non-internet-based tools for building a powerful relationship with audiences you'd never otherwise have the chance to reach. And I'm not talking about the sort of top 5 major festivals, because while those can be really good for getting you contacts in the industry, they actually don't do nearly the work that regional and local festivals can do, helping you gather contacts and email addresses in cities you would never otherwise go to. Instead of going to a festival and just trying to get the most prestigious premiere you can think of, you think about your festival run as a chance to build audiences in cities you would never otherwise go to. So instead of thinking necessarily about Sundance and South by, which would put you in the 0.001% of filmmakers ever, it might be okay to accept not only that you're in the 99.99%, but that festivals can be leveraged in a different way. So how about going to the Chattanooga Film Festival, the Milwaukee Film Festival, Hell's Half Mile Film Festival, Citizen Jane Film Festival, the Seattle Film Festival. All these festivals that maybe you haven't heard of, but it's time to do some research about because you don't have any contacts in Chattanooga. But Chris Dortch will help you get in front of the most activated audiences in Chattanooga. And in that screening, you would be able to hand out an email list and gather the emails of everybody who is excited to be there. Now imagine if you could do that at 10 or 15 festivals and gather 100 email addresses at each. you would come off your festival run with 1,500, maybe 2,000 emails that are now on your list of people who signed up because they saw your film, they liked what you're about, they were really happy about your festival Q&A, which is really important, and they want to know and stay informed about what's next for you.
Getting into those top-tier festivals is a huge honor, but if you can start to think about how a regional festival could totally change your career, you're going to redefine what success actually looks like. And the thing about festivals and these regional ones is that that's where your audience is going. Those are where the people who want to see your film and want to talk about it are actually going to see it.
I was at the Milwaukee Film Festival this year, and every screening that I saw had lines down the block and around the corner of the most engaged film fans in Milwaukee. And do you know what else is true about those people? They're probably the people their friends go to for film recommendations. So those are really important email addresses to have.
You have to take this really seriously. The campaign trail, whether it's in Chattanooga or Sundance, is incredibly serious, and how you conduct yourself is really important. So take advantage of the festival circuit. If you have the honor of getting to participate in a Q&A, use that. That means that someone purchased a badge for that festival, they came to your screening out of all of the different films that were showing at that time, and then they stayed afterwards to hear you talk. So use that.
You're gonna get like the same 5 questions at every festival.
Yeah.
Somebody is going to ask a question maybe about how much it cost, and hopefully they get booed. Somebody will ask an overly technical question to demonstrate how much they know.
Everybody always wants to know the camera you shot on.
Yeah,
Just
sort
be
of strange
prepared.
thing. Somebody will raise their hand and tell a personal story that seems relatively unrelated.
That's not a question.
Somebody will ask about, how did an actor do something really emotional in a particular scene? And then they will inevitably ask you what's next. And if you go on the festival circuit, I promise you, you will see the same sets of questions over and over. And that doesn't mean you won't get also brilliant, wonderful, inspiring questions as well, but you'll see these same questions. And it is your job to answer every one of those questions as if it is the first time you are hearing it. Because that is an audience member who has the guts not only to purchase the badges and pick yours out of all the screenings, but to raise their hand to talk to you personally. And if they're going to do that, it means they want to participate with you in some way. And you want to treat that person as if they're as special as the 10 people who asked you the same question in the previous 10 screenings. If you are terrified of public speaking and really scared to be on stage, make sure that you bring with you to your festivals some member of your key cast or crew who isn't and who can take on these questions. It's totally okay to be yourself. You don't have to stop being an introvert, but you do have to build the people around you who can help you take advantage of festivals in a really meaningful way.
Because you can really turn an audience in your favor or against you. We've all seen the filmmaker who's been answering the same questions on the festival circuit, and someone asks a very sincere question, and your answer is like, I don't know, I don't know, it was a long time ago, I don't really care. And on the other side, you can turn a room in your favor, even if maybe they were on the fence about your film. Your festival circuit, it's the campaign trail. You are kissing babies and shaking hands and making new contacts.
Back several chapters ago, we talked about some concentric circles, about how to bring your audience from the ether into the center. Now we're going to talk about concentric circles, about growing that center circle bigger with each crowdfunding campaign and each festival run. At the beginning of your crowdfunding campaign, if it's the first time you've chosen to engage your audience this way, your core is always going to be your friends and family of you and your key cast and crew members who are participating. And outside that will be the sort of core audiences that you build in all of the audience engagement that you do in advance of the campaign. That sort of amounts to your first 30%. When you really start engaging through social media, you figure out which partnership organizations are going to help you amplify your message, and you add on layers of these concentric circles, alumni organizations and schools,
Social
church
interest
groups,
groups.
social interest groups, all of these things that you learn in your research and in your audience building, that circle gets bigger and bigger. Then comes your incredible festival run. And that is where you add another layer of incredibly engaged audience members that you might not otherwise be able to find necessarily through social media. You only find them in the cities where they live, at the festivals that they love.
And if you're doing your job throughout the campaign and throughout your festival, you've been gathering email addresses throughout this whole period of time. So then when you move on to your next campaign for your next film, you're not starting here at the very center of that circle. You're starting way out here.
If, as Erica said, you really commit to doing this work and growing that circle wider with each project gets easier to make. Each project is easier to find funding for, and each project will get distributed to a guaranteed wider audience every time. This is how you build a sustainable career.